So Unit 3, Activity 2 is all about product design and development. So let's get started with looking at this part of the fashion industry. And let's start off by reviewing. So you know that the secondary market involves the manufacturing and production of fashion merchandise, and it also includes the distribution. So there are 3 integral steps, which includes the design, and then the production, and then lastly the sales. So typically fashion product manufacturers are organized into these 3 steps, and they work with each other to produce fashion merchandise. So usually it's not just one person doing all 3 steps. So the design of new fashion products are conceived based off of consumer profiles, which we looked at in Unit 1 and 2. So this looks at the needs, the wants, and the purchasing behavior of a target audience. The designer also designs the product lines, and it's conceived based off of a theme or fashion trends, color trends, or fabrications that are in style. The production team, on the other hand, is responsible for actually making and producing the items, and they need to produce these items in the styles and the sizes that have been ordered by retailers. So generally a retailer such as Zara will put an order in, and then the clothes will get made. Lastly, the sales people market the fashion line and act as liaisons and coordinators to make sure everything runs smoothly between the manufacturer and the retailer, who are owners or buyers. So let's review about the designer, which we touched on in the last activity. The designer performs different tasks on a daily basis in order to design and develop a garment or a garment line. So have you ever considered the factors that influence a designer's conceptualization of a product or the final product development? So hopefully you've learned that there are countless numbers of garment styles, each with its own distinct look and set of characteristics from which a designer might choose. You've also learned about the importance of the customer and the power of the consumer in determining what styles will or will not become fashion. The famous American designer Halston said, "I've always felt that all the designer can do is suggest. It's the consumer who rejects or accepts and is the ultimate maker of fashion." You've also learned that while a couture or a ready-to-wear design may have what's perceived as luxury to suggest, most designers work at the mass manufacturing level of production, and as a result are very accountable for the garments and garment lines they design for production. The bottom line is always making a profit, and these designers need to know how to translate couture and ready-to-wear trends to suit their customers' needs and wants at a mass manufacturing level. As well, these designers must be able to select fabrics and construction techniques that address their company's price range. So successful design, there are 3 little Venn diagrams here for things that I want you to consider. So knowledge of the customer, and this is at the top because I think it's the most important. Designers need to consider the overall impact a product will have on their market segment. And they do this by focusing on these things over here. So product function. As clothing is purchased to meet a consumer need, what function will the product be designed to serve? So meeting the needs and the wants of customers is critical, as greater quantities of fashion products will be sold if the customer's needs and wants are met. So for example, if you're designing a line of winter coats, the most important need that must be considered is warmth. If the coat's not going to provide warmth, then what's the point of wearing it? You could wear a spring or a fall coat. On the other hand, if you're designing swimwear that will be worn in the water, the designer must protect the modesty of the wearer when the swimwear is wet. And this can be considered through appropriate fabrication choices. So, for example, white is not usually a popular costume for swimwear unless the appropriate fabrications have been put into place to make sure that the swimmer's modesty is kept at the forefront. Other things that designers must address include the suitability of the design for the age of the customer. So something that is designed to be worn on someone in their early 20s may not be appropriate for someone in their 50s. Another thing to consider is the occasion. So why is the person wearing the product? And as well, the lifestyle or purchasing behavior of the customer. So all of these things intrinsically function for a designer to consider and think about what his product development is going to be like. The next circle in knowledge of customer is product fashionability. So the fashionability of the product must be designed to relate to the customer's position in the fashion cycle. It makes little sense to design a garment for a fashion leader that will be sold in a retail establishment that caters to fashion followers. So you wouldn't make a couture-looking garment to be sold at Walmart, because the majority of people that shop and buy garments at Walmart are considered fashion followers. If they did that, they would lose money. Designers must know and understand their customers and be able to translate this into styling, silhouette, shape, detailing, color, fabrication, and use of trims. Another thing that we need to consider when we look at knowledge of customer is added value. Added value is derived from the product itself, so maybe the fit of the garment, the use of unique fabrics, or detailing. Added value can also be derived from the customer's perception of the designer or the brand that they're purchasing. So for example, when Coach was in several years ago, a Coach bag had added value. So compared to another purse from, let's say, Bentley, since Coach was exceptionally popular, the Coach brand gave the person using the garment or the accessory extra street cred, if you will. So these three things, product function, fashionability, and added value, are all things that designers should consider if their designs are to be successful and profitable. So that's all in the knowledge of customer bubble. Next, we're going to focus over here to garment and product aesthetics. And what I want you to think about is what draws you to look at a garment. If you're walking through the aisles of Bayshore and you see something in the window, what draws you into the store to actually try that garment on? Maybe your attention's drawn to the silhouette, or the shape, or the detailing. Maybe it's the color, or the texture of the fabric, or maybe it's the embellishments that enhance the design. Designers must know and understand their customers and be able to translate this into sensibly produced aesthetics. So when the aesthetics of a fashion product enhance the body shape and proportions, as well as the facial features of the customer, then that product is more likely to be more successful. The aesthetics of the product should enhance the customer's appearance. So when you try it on, it should make you look better. That is just basic. If you try on an orange dress and it makes you look worse, then you are probably not going to buy it. You always want to be making a positive impact on the customer. The last circle here is fabrication and construction choices. So we've talked about couture, ready-to-wear, and mass production. Fabrication and construction choices have a tremendous impact on the cost of a fashion product. While couture and ready-to-wear designers are able to enhance their products by using more luxurious fabrications and very sophisticated construction techniques, designers at the mass production level must deconstruct a design to its lowest common denominator. So this means that it has to turn the fabrication, detailing, and construction methods into something that the common people can afford. It's important to realize that customers evaluate the cost of a fashion product in relation to the use, fabrication, construction, and sense of gratification they'll feel when wearing the product in relation to their price. So people are willing to pay more for something that is very useful, for something that is constructed well, or something that makes them look or feel great when they are wearing it. So I know there are some people interested in becoming designers in this group. So let's look at the development of a collection. Regardless of the industry level, every designer develops a new line or collection each season, and they must follow a series of steps to bring their idea to the marketplace. So let's look at step number 1, which is fundamental decisions. Before the design process begins, they have to make fundamental decisions such as theme, fabric selection, production numbers, and promotion to retailers. All of this planning is done before the first piece of fabric is cut. Design themes relate to customer profile and forecasted trends. Fabric choices relate to the season, the geographic area where the merchandise will be sold, as well as the sourcing of certain fabrics. Sometimes at certain times of the year, more different fabric is harder to get. Offshore fabric sourcing requires more lead time. So if you need to go international to get your fabric, it was going to take more time to order it and ship it than purchasing fabric from somewhere, let's say in Ontario or in Canada. production numbers need to depend on the retailer's response to the line, so who's actually going to buy your stuff and how do they feel about it, and the timetabling, so how quickly can it get to them. If you're making something on the continent, so something in the United States, Canada, or Mexico, it usually needs about a 6-month lead time, whereas offshore production requires 9 to 12 months between the inception of your design to the store delivery. So you're going to pay less for it to be produced in a foreign country, but you're going to wait longer. So those fashion producers who create original designs realize that a greater amount of time is spent in the development stages than is needed by manufacturers who produce knockoffs or copies that are already available at the retail level. So once you've made the functional decisions for your line, you need to work into the design concepts and sample making. So the design team prepares many sketches for the line. Some of the sketches are rejected and others are refined. Although the decisions for the line are driven by trends, they are also driven by sources of inspiration and customer profiles. And all through that, the designer uses elements and principles of design to drive both the conception of the idea and the final sketches. So color, fabric, design, notions, trims are all on those final sketches. From these sketches, patterns are produced, and these patterns are cut and then built into samples. Each sample that's produced becomes part of the line. Samples afford the pattern drafter and the sample maker an opportunity to refine the design or streamline the construction and help the production process. So designers may choose to either render the design by hand or by computer. When using a computer, designers can create with color and modify their designs very easily. These designs are the basis for every designer's collection and are instrumental in pattern development and production. While they're doing all this sample making, the garment has to be costed as well. So each designer completes a spec sheet for the garment, which includes all the costs incurred to transform a design into the final product. Your spec sheet typically includes a technical drawing, as well as the cost of the fabric, supporting fabrics, notions, and trims. You'll use the spec sheet to assist in determining the wholesale price of your garment. So that's what the garment actually costs. Then other expenses which need to be considered are labor, packaging, production, and sales costs, as well as transportation costs. In the design concept and sample making, there's also sales research analysis. So a manufacturer usually has a sales division, and this division is instrumental as they keep records of previous pricing and garment style in relation to the numbers sold. So this data helps the manufacturer determine the styles that should be offered and how much they should produce. So they'll use their past success or failure to hopefully influence the future. Once the line is done, the samples are previewed by retailers and buyers, and then those items are ordered and then go into production. At this point, the manufacturer might refine the quantity of styles being offered, or may decide to offer a greater style selection. Designs that don't get ordered are eliminated. Designs which are not reordered are pulled from the line. Last in this step is line presentation. So line presentation is during fashion weeks and in buying centers. New collections are shown at different times of the year. So you'll see men's wear is shown at a specific time and then women's wear. Purchase ordering is when retailers and buyers will purchase fashion merchandise for their stores. So after they've seen it in the line presentation, they'll actually make the order. And then once the orders are made, production will start. So final samples are conducted, final patterns are drafted, and then the assembly line comes out and computerized equipment assists with the drafting, cutting, and construction of mass numbers of garments. So we're going to leave it there for this video, and we will come back with characteristics of a line.